Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic, and I remember it so you don't have to. Okay, don't click away yet. I promise I won't be doing this the whole time. It's a relevant reference. You know, when I planned to do this, I thought that I had ties in my house, and it turns out I didn't. And so I had to improvise last minute. These socks really came in handy, but I seem to have stretched one incredibly by tying it around my neck. Anyway, for a significant portion of my life, my understanding of nostalgia was as this thing that was largely negative. It felt like this concept that affected the way I might try to evaluate things on their own merits. Or as something that would hold me in its warm embrace, the happy feeling I get from returning to a movie or a book I like and ignore some of the bad parts of, instead of having to seek out new things to enjoy. Taking off the nostalgia goggles to re-experience my favorite authors' books is the reason I started this channel. Real ones remember when I just uploaded slideshows of static images and talked through the plots and my criticisms of Tamara Pierce's work. But what is nostalgia? I can do the thing where I give you the dictionary definition from Merriam-Webster, which is 1. A wistful or excessively sentimental yearning for, return to, or of some past period or irrecoverable condition. God, that is written in a way that is so hard to say. 2. The state of being homesick. But as usual, a dictionary definition can only do so much. It doesn't exactly measure up to how the word is used colloquially. Nostalgia bait is an insulting term we can use to describe something that leans on nostalgia to get you to do a thing or watch a thing. Nostalgia goggles is a phrase that we use to describe the rose-tinted glasses we view things through. They're usually brought up as something that warps your better judgment of the more negative qualities of something that you like. Nostalgia is a feeling that can, and often is, triggered by the history or cultural impact of something outside of your own experiences. You may not remember when the original Star Wars movies were released, but you might have fond memories of seeing whatever trilogy or cartoon was currently running as a child, and so you are still a target for nostalgia bait that involves Star Wars. It is part of pop culture history at this point, and that makes any new engagement with it different from how somebody might have done so when it was just one or two movies. But nostalgia isn't just a feeling that affects you personally, or something someone uses to sell you something. It can be used for your benefit or against you and other people more broadly. It is a powerful enough psychological tool that leaning on it is a guarantee to at least make some money, but can also result in more nefarious ends. Nostalgia for the past is constantly taken advantage of and weaponized by people wanting to reach some political or social goal. Nostalgia is more about the present than it is the past. To feel wistful of a bygone era, something about your current circumstances has to trigger that feeling in the first place. I don't think it's controversial to say that as every generation grows older, they gain a new appreciation for things they remember growing up with. Your actual memories fade into these recreations that you call up anytime something hits that trigger in your brain. This new appreciation you might get as you grow older is sometimes expressed in back in my day type anecdotes, or it may devolve into a more toxic obsession with the media empire that you've grown up with. You see a young person engaging with those things and you just can't comprehend it being for somebody other than you now. In an early Simon Pegg project, before even Shaun of the Dead, he played a gamer guy who loves nerdy stuff in the television show Spaced. I fucking love this show, so don't take this as me saying you shouldn't watch it, but some parts of the show are really weird to experience now. After the new Star Wars prequel trilogy starts, Simon Pegg's character hates them so much that he screams in fury at a child for the crime of liking Jar Jar Binks.
So do not understand. You weren't there at the beginning. You don't know how good it was, how important. This is it for you, this jumped up firework display of a toy advert. People like you make me sick. What's wrong with you? Now, I don't care if you've saved up all your 50p's, okay? Take your pocket money and get out!
Of course, there is some legitimate criticism of that Star Wars character, but that has nothing to do with the rage he feels. Jar Jar is a silly character made for kids to like in a movie series that is popular with kids, and he can't stand that. You're not a real Star Wars fan, he thinks at the child. He's definitely supposed to be read as a jerk in the scene, but it feels so weird now that the online landscape is filled with guys like this who aren't the butt of the joke. At least they don't think they are. The power our positive feelings towards something have over us is immense and can influence our actions in some nasty ways if we aren't careful. We have been preoccupied with nostalgia for at least the last few hundred years. The word nostalgia was originally a medical diagnosis for soldiers in the 1600s. Soldiers, people who have a pretty good reason to be melancholic about their current lot and want to go back to a time before they were, at war. This oppressive feeling of melancholy and disconnection from one's current circumstances was something that actually got a lot of attention from medical professionals in the intervening years. As the field of psychiatry kept evolving, the term fell out of use for these particular conditions in favor of other names that more specifically identified the roots of these feelings and how they affected people. Post-traumatic stress disorder and depression are two such conditions you would probably recognize. The things you are remembering with this veil of nostalgia draped over them don't have to be media-related. And indeed, most of the nostalgic feelings we have in our day-to-day are for experiences in our life. It could be thinking about that time you and your friends stayed up all night, crushing a 24-pack of soda and hanging out when you were a teenager. Maybe a game or movie was involved, but the nostalgia is for the camaraderie and carefree nature of that time with friends. The further away you get from that type of carefree and social existence, whether in time or physical distance from that place or those people, the more power that wistful recollection might have over you. There are two types of nostalgia. I've seen these concepts explained in a couple of places, but the breakdown I'm using to guide what I say today is from Restorative versus Reflective Nostalgia, How Your Memories Shape Your Mental Health from ThriveWorks. Of the two types, reflective nostalgia is the sadder kind. Think dwelling on the past when you felt like things were better. Maybe you got dumped, you lost your job, your dog died, or maybe some other country music song staples. And you can't stop thinking about how bad everything is now and how much better it was before that thing happened. These kinds of feelings can infest our thoughts without you even realizing it. This kind of nostalgia can be agonizing and leads to even more pain as you sink deeper. You can get depressed and hopeless about the future because your life now doesn't feel fulfilling. The other type of nostalgia that I am more interested in for my purposes today is restorative nostalgia. You're revisiting memories that make you happy, whether or not the thing you're remembering was a happy experience on its own. Sometimes you are alone, and sometimes you are commiserating with friends. If you've ever reconnected with someone after a long time and you just got so excited to see them and kept remembering shared experiences with that person, then you have experienced this type of nostalgia. It encourages you to feel connected, to have hope about the future. The act of tracing a bond with something or someone throughout the course of your life shows you where you've been and how far you've come. I've been replaying Final Fantasy X recently, and it's still a great game, but a big portion of my enjoyment has been talking with friends who I bonded with over this game decades ago. We've been remembering the hard parts that one or the other of us are better at. I suck at the butterfly catching minigame, but I love Blitzball. One of my friends can't stand to blitz outside of the story games. Another friend can get through the monster arena grind or the super bosses, but I'd rather break all my fingers than attempt some of those. The social aspect of this shared remembering is just as important to my mental well-being and enjoyment as the game itself. We won't talk about the rage quitting at midnight after an hour of trying to catch these stupid fucking butterflies. Nostalgia isn't just related to what is happening in your life on a personal level. It is drastically influenced by whatever is happening in the world around you. A fixation on the past can be weaponized politically to convince people things used to be good, and wouldn't it be nice if they could be again? Your current circumstances, like social isolation or illness or years of being overworked, might push you to extremes, either fully retreating into your past or anger that things aren't the same now. Right here, right now, we are going to talk about nostalgia in media, not just as a marketing tool to hook you, but as a deeply ingrained aspect of the narrative. So, to start with, I should probably talk about Stranger Things. Stranger Things released on Netflix originally in the summer of 2016. It's been, Jesus Christ, almost 10 years since that original release. Subsequent seasons released in 2017, 2019, and 2022, with the final season set to release this year in 2025. Stranger Things has been criticized at length from all corners of the internet for the way it leans on nostalgia to sell the viewer a pastiche of 1980s America. How it effectively makes people nostalgic for a time period that held so much pain and strife for so many. For many viewers, they may not have been alive for that time period and thus have no actual nostalgic memories of their own. They, or more accurately in my case, we, are relying more on a cultural memory of arcades and roller rinks and mullets. And yet I still obtain that sweet hit of nostalgic reminiscence to lull myself into a consumeristic stupor where I want to make my current life more like that. What do I have to buy to feel like that? That's better. This phenomenon I experience watching Stranger Things isn't true nostalgia, but pseudo-nostalgia. In an article published in The Conversation, Professors Tom Van Laer and David Christian Arazi say that we call it pseudo-nostalgia because younger consumers of these revived products and services have never experienced the original. And that's true. I love stuff from the 80s, but my frame of reference is like Back to the Future or E.T. My parents, who were very young when I was growing up, spent their formative years in the 80s, and I grew up listening to their music and watching whatever they watched. Only the best of the decade that actually stood the test of time into the following years. The worst stuff left behind, as it usually is. The 1980s are a common playing ground for nostalgic media, and Stranger Things is a perfect representation of that phenomenon. This was a time safely before the drastic and fast-paced changes of the digital age. Things like the growing accessibility of technology feels almost quaint to look back at now. Many of the things we take for granted, like constant access to anything we could ever want to watch, make the 1980s feel like an entirely different world. It was standing on this cultural precipice. Once we as a society took the leap, we would never be able to go back to how things were. These nerdy characters who are into games and technology seem like they are ahead of their time, knowing as we do now how mainstream their hobbies would become. It seems simpler back then, and simpler is easy to digest. Those of us who don't have to remember the bad parts of the past can safely revel in this sanitized version portrayed in media like Stranger Things. In an article titled Stranger Things and the Frustrations of Gen X's 80s Nostalgia Habit for Salon.com, writer Davida G. Breyer notes, "When I started working on my novel, I knew I wanted to set it in the 1980s, but not for the nostalgia factor. I wanted to talk about the social and cultural isolation teens experienced in the 1980s. I wanted to address the routine threat of violence gay teens faced at school. I wanted to show that the 1980s were not all flashy clothes and conspicuous consumption. I never thought of it as being nostalgic, but it turns out that nostalgia is a tricky thing. It creeps in at the edges when you aren't looking." The book is called Sinkhole. It's a coming-of-age story with all the hits. Returning to a former home, grief, loss, friendship. I highly recommend it, even though I didn't actually finish it before recording this video. I hope I said her name right, but if I didn't, pretend I did. I'm not here to argue with criticisms of nostalgia-bait media like Stranger Things. You can keep those goggles firmly in place and enjoy the mullets and mayhem when the new season airs. I know I will. These criticisms serve the important function of questioning how we represent our past and what we might be leaving out of that representation that would change how we think the world should be in the here and now. It can be weaponized to make you think we've somehow lost something and that we should do something to get it back. I used Stranger Things as an example because it was such a cultural juggernaut at the time of release and still commands a huge amount of hype and attention when new seasons drop, which is something I don't notice as much of in the content mill of like online second screen streaming video. Nostalgia is this incredibly powerful tool for marketing. The reason for that is the positive things that it can do for you mentally. It can be remembering a shared experience that reinforces social bonds. It can connect you to a painful past in a more positive way, reminding you of the good parts that were harder to pay attention to with everything else going on. It can remind you of how far you've come in your life, how much you've changed already, and how capable you are of changing and learning more in the future. When I got my first apartment with a friend, we were really not doing great financially. Rent was only $500 in our small town, but we were still struggling to pay it and buy food and pay bills every month. Every now and then, we would pool together our change and go to the local Chinese buffet to fill up a to-go container with crab rangoon. It got to where the owner would see us come in and he would signal the kitchen staff to start prepping more because he knew what we were about to do. Then we would go home and gorge ourselves on them while we watched a movie in our freezing cold apartment where we kept the heat off most of the winter to try and conserve power and therefore conserve money. When this friend was going through something really awful a few years back, I flew home last minute and got us a big container of crab rangoon from the same restaurant on my way to her house. We may have been struggling and had days where all we could get to eat was the crab rangoon, but we had each other. But now we can get it as a treat and laugh about how bad the struggle was then. And now we have that shared memory that we can return to when things are awful in new and exciting ways. I still think about it every time I eat crab rangoon, even though I live 1,000 miles away. It's a comfort food that makes me feel connected to my past. This example from my own life isn't special. I mean, it is special, but to me. It gives me all of those positive effects like I talked about earlier. But so far nobody has figured out a way to sell people other than me this same feeling for the crab rangoon in their life. This is why pseudo-nostalgia works really well for Stranger Things. Dressing something up in the styles we all associate with an era, name drop famous things of the time period, and you have this simulacrum of that time period that a general public can plug themselves into. As the entertainment industry chugs along with reboot after reboot and sequel after sequel in search of as much money as possible, the warm feeling these familiar settings used to give me have waned. Though if they're going to keep rebooting everything, the least somebody could do is give me a reboot of the cartoon reboot. This show would kill with modern audiences if it didn't look so janky. The toxic obsession with nostalgia that manifests as weirdos complaining about women and minorities in their Star Wars has really laid bare why it's bad to make your whole life about the past. Even if it is just in ways that seem trivial, like being really into a movie series. If you can't see anything good about the present, then you can be sold a false idea of what this glorious past used to be and what we should be returning to. With all of this in mind, I'm interested in exploring how storytelling can use nostalgia as a narrative tool. Stranger Things doesn't really tackle the idea of nostalgia in the narrative, though pseudo-nostalgia is a pretty big part of developing the show's aesthetics and marketing. To bait your audience with nostalgia as such a huge marketing factor, I don't think it's really possible to examine the concept of nostalgia with any depth in the story. Instead, I have selected a couple of things that I think do a stellar job of recreating the feeling of nostalgia while simultaneously interrogating why we feel that way and whether or not you should let those feelings into your heart and mind. I'm particularly interested in how they use reflective or restorative nostalgia in the narrative. Total spoilers ahead for Night in the Woods and Lost Records Bloomin' Rage. Night in the Woods has been out for a while, so if I'm spoiling that for you, I can't really do anything about that. Lost Records came out this year though, so if that's on your to playlist, maybe save this one for later. So, let's get into it. I guess I can take off this Hellfire Club shirt now. This is your Patreon money at work. Night in the Woods is a game that takes place in a Rust Belt town that has been left behind by every industry that used to prop it up. A haunted house of a town beset by the ghosts of its own past. This idea of a haunted house is a repeated motif in the story. A place lingering on after everything that kept it alive has started to crumble into dust. Our protagonist is Mae Borowski. She has come home after dropping out of college and arrives to an empty station. Her parents have forgotten the night she was set to arrive, and so she must talk to the spooky janitor and then make her own way home. On this journey, she passes through the woods at night and into the dilapidated playground she used to play in as a kid. Of course, she starts climbing around on the equipment to try and find a way over the fence. This choice serves the gameplay function of teaching you how to use the game's light platforming mechanics, but also reinforces what I see as a main through line for her character. She wants to be a kid again. She, like many other people in Possum Springs, is stuck in a cycle of reflective nostalgia. May is returning to the safety and comfort of her home after fleeing from her current life as a college student. She struggles with profound mental illness that affects her perception and connection with the world around her. Her dissociative episodes made the dorm room around her and the world outside it feel unreal. Her perception of other people was nothing but a collection of shapes. So she goes home, the last place she remembers feeling normal. Back in Possum Springs, everything has moved on without her. The town is the same physical structure, but shops are boarded up, the dwindling population and domination of big chain stores nearby sapping the life out of them. Now they are empty husks. May wants to hang out all day and sleep till the afternoon, then go hang out with her old friends. But those old friends have jobs and responsibilities. One of them, named Casey, the only other cat of the group, has gone missing, and it seems like the town has written him off as a runaway. Just more evidence of the failing town and the people fleeing from it for anywhere else. May's old life is a pair of jeans that no longer fit, taking up space in the closet of her mind and reminding her that she is no longer the right shape. Each evening, you can hang out with either Bee the crocodile, whom May hasn't been close to since middle school, or Greg the fox, her best friend who shares a lot of her internal struggles and desire to do petty crimes as a way to act out. Each path gives you a window into the life of the chosen friend. Each of them offers a different path for May to take and have her growing pains. She wants to hang out at the mall with Bee, only to discover the mall of her youth is largely dead. Yet another haunted house in this world full of dead and dying places. Bee makes you return an item you shoplifted from one of the stores. She never had the delinquent phase that May is still in. Bee had big plans after high school. She wanted to go to college and get out of Possum Springs. And then her mother died of cancer while she was still in high school, and her father wasted away. Not dead, but still a ghost. He rots on the couch, haunting this, the only life Bee will ever have. Their house is gone from the medical debt, so Bee lives out of boxes in their small apartment. She won't abandon her father, the only family she has left, and so takes on the role of managing the family hardware store instead of going to school. May's dropping out of college feels to Bee like a personal insult. May had every opportunity Bee didn't, and seems to have thrown it away with the sneering, juvenile flippancy she hasn't grown out of. It's a defense mechanism to avoid confronting the things that make May feel monstrous and abnormal. The fights between Bee and May are ugly. The game doesn't give you a way out. No magic phrase that will diffuse a situation. May is facing someone and refusing to see who they are now and how they got there. She is trapped in this idea of them as kids. Their proximity in the town of Possum Springs is what brought them together. But to become friends again as adults, May can't run from herself anymore. When May finally tries to grow up in her own way, the two make a choice to remain friends. Their shared history gives them a type of bond. It is old and mostly a memory. May finally trying to grow up is what brings that bond into the present and strengthens it. This is them now. All their faults and painful history is still there, but talking about it and remembering the things they liked about each other is like a salve on a ragged wound. On the other hangouts, May wants to cause mayhem. By mayhem, I mean petty crimes. May and Greg are basically the personification of the cute little phrase, be gay, do crimes. She wants to do things like knife fight with Greg in the woods like old times, only to realize her friend is struggling too. He's trying now to face his problems head on instead of acting out like the delinquents they had always been together, feeding off each other. Greg has a relationship now and his own apartment with his boyfriend Angus the bear. They have big plans to move away to the city, somewhere they won't be sore thumbs sticking out from everybody else as an openly gay couple in a small town. Greg knows he has shit to deal with, and he knows May will drag him back down if he doesn't make some boundaries. He and Angus fight over it. Angus knows he can't build a life with someone like the person Greg has always been, so Greg has a choice to make. With his partner for support, Greg is able to tell May that she has to give him room to grow up, even if she doesn't want to. She wants Greg and Angus to be happy, but isn't sure how she fits in now that Greg is on his own journey of maturing and healing. They offer her friendship so long as she can respect the new boundaries. She can see them now as they are, not as the people they used to be. Seeing her friend be loved for who he is and supported in his attempts to be better, even when he makes mistakes, shows May that she doesn't have to cling to the past. If things can get better for Greg, they can be better for her too. He still wants her around. He just wants them both to grow up. The town of Possum Springs itself is obsessed with the past. This struggle is personified by the cult that has been sacrificing people. Deep in the mine that is the specter of the town's prosperity is a dark pit. The thing at the bottom calls out to May. It senses in her the same thing it covets in the existing followers of its cult. This drive to return to the past that these cloaked old folks will literally kill for. They've already killed for it. Casey didn't run away. He was sacrificed for the promise of returning Possum Springs to its glory days. His death written off as better for the town because all these losers and vagabonds are what must be making things worse. That's something they feel like they can control, when the reality is that people with money only invest it where they think they can make more. Making Possum Springs great again might involve harming some of the people who live there, but they aren't the right type of people, so who cares? May could have wound up like Casey if she hadn't left for college, and she knows it. She won't join with a cause like theirs. May has changed in the short time she has been home, reconnecting with her life in a way that gives her room to grow. Alone, May is vulnerable. Her present is so hard that she longs for the simplicity and perceived prosperity of her youth. But her friends won't let her be alone anymore. She has seen who they are now and accepted that they may have changed, but they are still her friends, her family. They love her even when she makes mistakes, supporting her so that she can learn from them and be better. So they come with her, even when she tries to go it alone into the mine, and all join in when she tells the cult members to fuck off. Things aren't perfect, of course. They all have to deal with the fallout from this weird autumn. But now May can actually visualize a life for herself and her friends that leads into the future instead of dwelling on and trying to recreate the past. Her mental illness isn't cured, but she knows she can rely on people, and that is often the difference between making it or not. The possibilities in town may be closed, but now we have a taco buck to enjoy instead. And I like tacos better anyway. This story shows us how nostalgic melancholy can trap you in a sometimes literal pit of despair. Desperately trying to drag yourself out, but only managing to go deeper as you cling to how things were. You have to face your life, the good and the bad, or you'll never make it out alive. You see the shift from obsessive reflection on the past to this restorative process of reconnection. The climb out of the pit doesn't seem impossible when you know people are up there throwing you a rope. Lost Records Bloom and Rage came out this year. It takes place partially in 1995 and is the story of 4 teenage girls and their friendship as it spans across decades. The other half of the game takes place in the early 2020s, right at the tail end of the COVID lockdowns. The player character is Swan Holloway. She is a nerdy teen obsessed with sci-fi and horror media and with aspirations of being a filmmaker. She carries around a handheld camcorder and makes little mini documentaries of her life. Her family are packing up and leaving her childhood home to move across the border into Canada. The friends are Autumn Lockhart, a military brat whose family has settled in the town of Velvet Cove. Nora Malakian, a teen who craves attention any way she can get it, which results in her acting out and becoming obsessed with the aesthetics of counterculture. Finally, we have Kat Michelson, youngest daughter of the family that brings a lot of business to Velvet Cove with their deer hunting ranch. She's rebellious and witchy and fiercely loves her new friends. And they are mostly new friends. Nora and Autumn were the only 2 who knew each other before the start of the game. The sections of the game that take place in the 90s all take place in the one summer these girls met and became friends. They have sleepovers, movie nights, camping trips. They make a secret hideaway out of a creepy abandoned cabin in the woods and spend these long days and nights forging bonds that they think will last their whole life. But there are things they don't like to talk about. Swan is on the chubby side and struggles with self-confidence in talking to people. The game gives you the option to apologize constantly for acting weird, saying something weird, or even just taking up space. Autumn deals with racism as one of the only Black people in town. More is expected of her and less leeway is given when she does something wrong. The pressure gives her a sense of responsibility over others. She doesn't want to be involved in anything that might confirm people's worst expectations about her. Nora struggles deeply with a feeling of abandonment from her mother leaving. Her father remarried and seems to give her pretty much free rein in her daily life. For her, problems can be solved with money or just by ignoring it. You can't feel sad about your mother not loving you enough to stay if you never talk or think about it. Riot Girl music is loud and angry, giving her an outlet that she doesn't have to think about too much. People pay attention to her when she's loud and angry, and maybe one day they might even love her for it, the way she loves these bands. Kat lives on her family's deer ranch and hates it there. She has a deep distaste for the practice of bringing creatures into the world just to die before they even get to start living. Nobody will remember them except as a trophy or a photo hung on a wall. Even she won't be around to remember them forever, and she's the only one who seems to care enough to try. She's a witchy teen doing spells like the one she does to protect her older sister Dylan from her abusive boyfriend Corey. When they find a fairy circle in the woods near their cabin, Kat is the one to suggest they make a blood oath. They curse Corey with a song they write together. His abuse isn't restricted to Dylan. It spills over into his behavior toward Kat and her friends too. And they want to get even. When the fairy circle opens up to reveal the abyss, Kat leads the others in offering gifts with a personal meaning to them to then ask it for a boon in return. They ask for things we can all understand: freedom from those who would hurt them, strength, love. The abyss will answer these wishes in ways they don't expect. Kat is the one who dies. I'm sure if you've seen any coming-of-age stories like this before, the death of one of the girls will not shock you. This is a death that has been staring Kat down for a long time. She has cancer and knows she does not have much time left. This summer is about having the best time of her life because it will likely be the last one. Kat doesn't want to be like the deer, dying before she gets to live her life on her own terms. She wants to do everything to make memories that will stick with these girls she has grown to love so fiercely long after she is gone. Their band Bloomin' Rage plays an impromptu show outside a local bar. Kat collapses and is rushed to the hospital, and this is how her new friends find out she is dying. This is the same place the adult women will meet decades later, the Blue Spruce. Spruce trees are laden with symbolic meaning. They can signify difficult times in someone's life, resilience, and inner strength. The bar's namesake is a representation of the many themes at play in the game. Kat never gets a chance to die of her disease. In the climax of the 1995 portion of the game, she becomes part of the abyss. Your choices in the game change some specifics of how this happens. The girls are instructed by what seems to be the abyss to forget about all this and never talk about what happened. They all move away and drift apart. The instruction to forget that summer allowing them to not deal with any of the bad memories, but it also keeps them from the good ones. It keeps them from connecting to things they loved that remind them of Kat, no matter how much something might have been important to them before. Swan and Autumn are the first to arrive at this reunion in the current timeline. They talk through a lot of the summer the girls all met. The command to forget had a literal effect, and the appearance of a mysterious package at Autumn's mother's house has them dealing with flashbacks so visceral they feel real. These flashbacks are the gameplay we experience in the past. The package is covered in writing and newspapers from the summer Kat left them. The words scrawled all over it are their band name and entreaties to remember me, remember us. In the past sections of the game, Swan interviews her friends. Autumn talks about wanting to do something that matters in the world, and now she's a social worker, someone who people depend on so much that she is constantly fielding calls from her boss on the East Coast over a kid that only feels safe opening up to her. Swan works in a local bookstore in her Canadian town and lives a largely solitary life. She loves her job and socializes some, but most of her friends are either online or her cat. She's happy this way, but she admits part of it is a fear to put herself out there again after that long ago summer. If you play your cards right, Autumn and Swan are starting to really reconnect by the time Nora arrives. The former two were always more introspective and forthcoming about the more negative parts of their lives, so they are dedicated to figuring out what the heck is in the package and what happened that they don't remember. They want to know, even if it's going to hurt. Nora has a chilling effect on the gathering. She, like always, doesn't want to talk about anything emotionally complex like that summer. She would rather only talk about what's happening right now, and nothing that might make everybody sad. She can't handle looking back through time and feeling the emotional highs of that summer because the accompanying lows would crush her. She's the same old Nora, despite the sleek makeover she has undergone as a fashion influencer. She stalked the others on social media a bit through the years, seeing snippets of their lives, but never really reaching out. If you keep playing those cards right, you can start to knock down the walls she has built to keep herself protected from all the crushing sadness of loss and the sense of failure she has over not being able to do anything to help Kat. This is something I think most people can identify with. It's hard to confront things that you have no control over. You must have failed somewhere along the line because a reality where you do everything right and the bad thing still happens is excruciating to reckon with. It feels hopeless. That hopelessness is devastating on its own, but it can be made bearable with the support of people around you. Nora has to be perfect and put together all the time, or people won't love her anymore. Everybody leaves, and if she had just found the right thing to say or the right thing to do, then maybe she could have stopped them, saved them. Her career as an influencer is a great move on the writer's part because the support for an influencer can be so fickle. Any expression of vulnerability or making mistakes will not be forgiven by the haters. She has to walk a constant line of hiding most of herself away to maintain the love and adoration she always craved. The walls she already put up as a teenager have been reinforced with concrete and steel. Breaking through to the real Nora can be tricky. The mysterious package contains mementos from their summer together. Some of them seem impossible because they fell into the abyss. There is a letter from Kat, written before she was lost, that tells everyone how much they mean to her, how much it meant for her to have them all, and how much peace it gives her to know they will carry her with them into the world when she is gone. If you've failed to reconnect with the others, Swan ends the game alone. She wanders Velvet Cove on foot, accompanied by the teenage ghosts of her friends, the remains of who they all were before the night that changed their lives. These ethereal ghosts of her friends are stuck haunting Swan as the only versions of these people she ever feels like she can connect to. Memories they can't reckon with to form a new bond as the people they are now with all the pain and sadness between them. In what I would consider the good ending, these ghosts are replaced by the adult women, revisiting these places that held so much good for them. They can allow themselves to feel the pain of Kat's loss, but have grown into new people over one short evening. People who love and accept each other, warts and all. The good things are worth remembering, and the painful things make the good more meaningful. Kat's ghost is with them too. She will always be this age for them, but their night of restorative commiseration has let them experience her ghost as a happy thing. They can enjoy memories of her and take her back with them into their lives, knowing they always have memories of her and each other. Their angry punk song Curse is now an acoustic version. The memory of the anger is still there in the lyrics, but it has faded into something softer, a scar that still pains them, but less so now that they have each other again. They are facing this world together, recognizing who they all are now instead of who they were then. The pain of those hard times has become a beautiful memory they can hold on to when things get hard again. The nostalgia for the 90s in Bloom and Rage is so strong that I could spend ages just looking through Swan's room, reading her handwritten fan fiction and playing with her Tamagotchi while her VCR rewinds whatever videotape she has in. It is really easy to just lay down on her bed and listen to the beautiful soundtrack. But if you let her just stay there in that snapshot of her childhood before everything changed, she will never be able to move on. She will never have these amazing experiences and gut-wrenching losses. She will never be able to move forward in her adult life and become someone who can remember this picturesque bedroom with more than the sadness of loss. She physically recovers the evidence of her memories in her video camera, which contains all of the little mini-documentaries she'd been making throughout the 1995 portions of the game. There is beauty in the changing nature of the world, and it isn't wrong to want to hang on to some things. But you'll never feel that same joy so deeply unless you can reorient yourself to the present. Unless you can face the fullness of the past and recognize that things weren't perfect before, you just hadn't lived enough to understand that life is never perfect. Our imperfections are what make us human, and our complex history is what makes the good things in the world stand out. You can't go back, but you can try to make the future better for yourself and the ones you love. And that's beautiful. So go play these games and learn and grow with these characters. Emotional catharsis from a well-told story can do a lot for you if you let it. Thank you so much if you made it all the way to the end. I really enjoyed working on this video and getting back into a more traditional style video essay. Thank you so much to my patrons for your support through these last couple months while I have been deep in this project. I'm so sorry if my voice sounds a little scratchy. I have been recording for like 2 hours and my throat is finally protesting. Reflective and restorative nostalgia are concepts I hadn't really known about before my reading for this. I think the study of nostalgia is really cool, and I think it benefits people to understand how it works internally so you can identify when somebody is trying to use it as a tool to manipulate you. My patron Discord has been amazingly helpful through the whole process. I've been talking about my research in there, getting feedback on the direction I wanted to take the video, and even some of my plans for the visuals I wound up including. We've done a few movie watch parties on nights where I just wanted to relax instead of wringing my brain out onto a Word document, and it's just great. I cannot express my gratitude strongly enough, but y'all know how much I love you to bits. If you made it this far, I'd appreciate it if you left a like on the video, maybe shared it around somewhere because YouTube tracks that kind of thing, and my erratic upload schedule makes it hell to get any eyeballs on my work. If you'd like to see more, then hit the subscribe button and we will see what I come up with next. I would like to thank Kathy for my ending music and all of my past and current patrons for making this video possible. If you'd like to help me produce more videos more quickly, head over to my Patreon at patreon.com/writingwomen and subscribe for as low as $2 a month. I think the main perk right now is really the Discord. It's for all past and current members of my Patreon. If you find you can't contribute anymore, then I'm not going to give you the boot. My patrons are up on the screen right now, and I'm also going to read them out. Tequila Sunset, Rick Osborne, Ashawi, Sam, Raccoon in the Distance, The Cube of Orbis, Epic Otters, KDP, Sean M. Dudley, Sarah B., Arachnalo, Ray, Mark, Olivia Kenny, Kirsten, Red, Tamara Larimore, Dustin C., Bruce C., and Pink Leisha. Thank you all so much for sticking with me. See you in the next one.